Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I just want to do a little quick video on magnesium today. I had some friends ask me about their magnesium supplement. Actually, what they asked me about was Charlie horses and their leg cramps. And we talked about it for a little bit, and I told them the two most common causes of leg cramps, to my knowledge, according to research that I've found. The first one is magnesium. So anytime somebody comes to me and says, I got these terrible leg cramps, what can I do? So I always look at magnesium, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. And the second thing that I look at is parasites. Believe it or not, parasites can cause terrible leg cramps, especially at night. And the reason that they are worse at night is because that's when parasites are more active. And they can cause restless leg syndrome too. And so just kind of set that one aside, because what we're talking about in this video specifically is magnesium. Now, I did a little, just some quick research before I started the camera. And I want to read you something that I just found. And I'll put the link to this, excuse me, in the description below. This says, a recent study published in the Journal of Atherosclerosis found that over a period of 10 years, the rate of death from heart problems was more than double in people with low levels of magnesium than in those with higher levels. And the death rate from all causes was more than 7 times higher in people with low levels. Vitamin D3 has a big role to play in that too, and I can't remember the doctor's name, but I'll try to put a link to that as well in the description. And it goes on, it says, another study from Harvard found that women with the highest levels of magnesium had a 77% lower risk of sudden cardiac death compared with women with the lowest levels. If you don't know, magnesium is vital for over 600, now, I mean, when I first started lecturing on this, it was over 300 different processes in the body, and now we're up to 600. So why am I talking about this? Well, not only because my friends asked me, but because as I've thought about this, I've thought, we like to get our magnesium and all of our minerals and vitamins and stuff from our food. And I agree with that 100% across the board. However, and I'll put the link to a couple of studies in the description below, there are research studies that have shown that our foods are definitely depleted in vitamins and minerals as compared to a generation ago or when I was a little girl. Kale has nowhere near the magnesium that it had when I was a child as it does today, unless you're growing your food on soil like people like Bob Gregory and others who are very, very good at gardening and managing the soil. And I'll put a link to Bob's webpage in the description below as well. So unless you have a garden and you're growing your food on soil that you have amended and it has the nutrients in it, not just that your plants need, but that your body needs, then you're probably not getting, if you're just depending on a grocery store for all your food, then you're probably not getting enough magnesium. A rule of thumb, and I learned this from a friend of mine who is a physician assistant several years ago. We were talking about magnesium, and she asked me if I was taking it, and I said yes. Well, how much do you take? Well, I don't know, maybe 400 milligrams a day. She said you need 500 milligrams for every 100 pounds of body weight. So I was pretty close. I barely weigh 100 pounds with all my clothes on, but I needed a little bit more. And so what I have done, because right now, my husband and I are not where we can always access garden produce, so we do depend quite a bit on stuff that we buy from the grocery store at this juncture. And so I got to thinking about that. Well, what are different ways that I can get magnesium? It's not always as easily absorbed through the GI tract, especially if you have any health issues, as you might think. So even though I was taking 400 milligrams, my body was not absorbing that amount. So what I did was I just sat down and I thought about what ways can I get magnesium in my body. I want to share that with you. One way I learned from some friends of mine in Arizona not too long ago. I don't have it with me, but I bought this big jug, and I think Now brand has some, and then there's Trace Minerals, different companies have. It's a big jug of magnesium flakes, and I believe that's magnesium chloride. And you just take like maybe a fourth cup of that, or half cup, depending on how big your spray bottle is. This is not what this label says. I've borrowed this spray bottle from, it was clean and intended for a natural cleaner, but I needed something for my magnesium spray. So what I did is I put about a third cup of magnesium flakes in this bottle, and I filled it probably 2/3 full. You know, the handle gets small, so it's probably about 2/3 full. And I just shook it until that dissolved, until I just made sure that the solution was very saturated. And then what I do with this is when I finish with my bath or my shower, I dry off, and then while my skin pores are dilated, my blood vessels are dilated and nice and toasty, I just spray this all over my body, my arms, my legs, my front, back, whatever I can reach. And then I kind of just gently rub that in until it's dry, and then I can put on lotion or whatever else you want to do. So that's one way you can get a good amount of magnesium, aside from smoothies and getting it in your food. And then there's different types of capsules. If you're someone who has problems with your bowels being too loose, then a good form to take would be something like magnesium glycinate, because that doesn't tend to, make people go to the bathroom. But if you're someone who tends towards sluggish bowels, then magnesium citrate would be a good form to consider. If you have a lot of money and you want to take a form of magnesium that's really good for the brain, magnesium threonate is a good way. Another way that has to do with bathing, of course, is to take an Epsom salt soak. Your body absorbs some of that Epsom salt from the tub. I usually, whenever I'm going to take an Epsom soak, I'll try to put maybe a cup or so of the magnesium in the tub, let that dissolve, and then I'll take my bath and soak in that. A word to the wise, though, is don't let it get in your hair, because it does strange things to your hair. So anyway, and then they have magnesium lotions and stuff that you can take too. How could I forget? As I was gathering my different forms of magnesium, I left out what I think is probably one of the most important ones, and that's a product called Remag. This is an ionic liquid magnesium. The directions say a half teaspoon in a glass of water. It says at least 4 ounces of water. Now, it tastes kind of strong in only 4 ounces of water, so I put it in more water. But this is a really good bioavailable, meaning your body can utilize this form of magnesium. There are kind of, I guess, knockoff brands of this. How well those work, I don't know, but I do know that Remag works very well. So that's another one to consider. Dr. Dean, Carolyn Dean, is the one who developed this, and you can find this online. Amazon carries it. So Remag. They also have, I think, there's a company called Body Health. They make a product called Perfect Aminos, and they also have little electrolyte packets that have magnesium. They have potassium too, and other sodium, and that's mostly for athletes. So there are powders and stuff that you can get like that as well. But the big thing I wanted to share was the different forms of capsules, the spray, and then don't forget about the Epsom salt bath. And these are very, very good to help with leg cramps and other things that can result if you're low in magnesium. And I like to encourage people, if they're having leg cramps or restless leg, particularly leg cramps, take this magnesium spray and spray it on your legs at night and kind of rub it in right before you go to bed. So I hope that helped. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below, and I'll try to remember to put all those links I mentioned. Take care. We'll see you on the next video.